Earth's magnetic field is the basis for all modern navigation, from airplanes to satellites in space and ships at sea, even Google Maps and smartphones. If it continues to deteriorate, those systems and more are at risk. The Earth's magnetic north was moving even before it was discovered in 1831. It's a natural process driven by molten iron moving deep beneath the Earth's crust. But magnetic north is now moving so quickly that it forced the world's geomagnetism experts to update the world magnetic model a year early. If the Earth's magnetic field decays significantly, scientists say it could collapse altogether and flip polarity, changing magnetic north to south and south to north. The planet's magnetic poles are believed to have flipped before in Earth history, but never in a time with such a dependence on technology. And many scientists now say a flip of north and south is looking more and more certain. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, Dr. Hugh Ross is an astronomer and founder of Reason to Believe, and he joins us now. And Dr. Ross, I'm just delighted to have you with us. Tell us what this whole magnetic field is. And you said this is one of the unique characteristics of why the Earth is so important. Tell us about it.
Well, Earth has a strong dipole magnetic field, and that prevents water from being lost from the Earth, also protects us from the deadly radiation from both the sun and cosmic rays. And these reversals that we've been hearing about, they've happened several hundred times in the past half-billion years of Earth's history. And we already have a pretty good idea what's going to happen during reversal. It'll be similar to what happened in 1859 when we got hit by a big solar flare. I mean, the magnetic field weakens, but there was a paper published by a Harvard astronomer just a couple of weeks ago making the point that as long as these reversals are short-lived, it does no damage to life on Earth or to our water loss. And we've survived several hundred in the past, but it will have significant consequences for our high-technology civilization. I mean, for example, something similar to what happened in 1859 were to happen today, it would probably knock out several GPS satellites, and it would definitely disrupt communications. The biggest consequence is the damage it could do to our electric power grids. And so I think it would be wise, in view of the fact that we know this is going to happen in the relatively near future, to take steps to protect the world's power grids. That will cost a few $1 billion, but that's a whole lot less than experiencing a shutdown of our electric power grids for months or years.
Well, you mentioned about the desiccation thing. If it's really severe, if we lose the magnetic field, that we would be subject to solar flares that could dry up our oceans. Could you talk about that?
Well, again, as long as if we lose our magnetic field for a significant period of time, yeah, it would have catastrophic consequences for animal life on planet Earth. And it's one thing we notice is we got our strong dipole magnetic field just before God created the first animals. I mean, the timing was remarkable. But what this paper from a Harvard astronomer indicates is that as long as the reversal is relatively short-lived, decades or hundreds of years, it's okay for life on planet Earth. However, it's not okay for a high-technology civilization, and it'd definitely be worth our while to spend some money to protect the power grids. I mean, for example, in 1989, there was a solar flare that knocked out the Quebec power grid, and it cost many billions of dollars. And what's happened is the Quebec government has now put in the protective measures. So if that happens again, the power grid stays up. The rest of the world's power grid is not protected. So given that these kinds of events, I mean, we had a solar flare like we did in 1859. Regardless of whether we get a magnetic reversal, we get the same consequence. We now have the research to know what we're going to face when this happens, and we can take appropriate preventive measures to ensure that our high technology civilization remains intact.
You said that the cost would be a few $1 billion, but the consequences of knocking out a power grid would be in the trillions of dollars, wouldn't it? Is Congress doing anything about this?
Well, I think this news of the fact that we may be coming into a magnetic reversal may get attention from the world's governments and say maybe we need to take some steps to prepare. Just like we prepare for fire disasters or flood disasters, this is something that we know is inevitable. I mean, for example, we get solar flares like we got in 1859 every few hundred years, maybe less. So it'd be wise for us to take steps to protect. And the remarkable thing is we're living at the optimal moment in the history of the sun where we get the fewest number of such flares that happened in 1859. So that's a blessing that we're living at the optimal time in the sun's history. Nevertheless, we should build our house on the rock and not on the sand and take steps to prepare.
What about the incidence of cancer? If this magnetic field is weakened, is the incidence of cancer more prevalent among human beings?
Well, during a magnetic reversal, the magnetic field of the Earth could decline to 40% of its present value. The worst case scenario is 5%. In either case, given how brief these events are, it's not going to significantly impact our health. I mean, if it were to last for centuries on end, probably the thing you would notice is your crop productivity would drop a little bit, maybe 10, 20, even 50%. But in terms of human health, it would have to be down at the 5% level literally for centuries before we would notice a significant uptake in cancer. The real danger is what's going to happen to our high technology civilization.
Is there anything that humans can do to prevent this? I mean, this magnetic field is in our core. There's nothing we can do to change this polarity, can we?
The only thing we could do is go into the interior of the Earth and change what's going on there. That's not feasible. And again, this has happened hundreds of times in the past 500 million years. Life has survived just fine. So this is not catastrophic to life. We can't see a single extinction event that's tied to any of these magnetic reversals. So again, I think the best thing we can do is take measures to protect our power grids.
One last question. What about this business about the North Pole shifting? And it goes, as I understand, as much as about 40 miles toward Russia. Am I correct in that?
Yes. I mean, the North Magnetic Pole is heading towards the North Pole. Actually, it means that your compasses are more accurate than they were 30, 40 years ago. So in one sense, that's a good thing. But yeah, it's continuing to move. And that's always a sign that you might be heading towards a reversal. And anybody who's interested in this, I've actually written a detailed article on this coming reversal in my blog called Today's New Reason to Believe. You can get that at reasons.org.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. Appreciate so much you being with us.
You're very welcome.
Just thrilled. He's teaching a course, by the way, that's being compulsory for all of the divinity students at Regent University called Cosmology. We're talking about the origin of the cosmos, where it's come from, and we've got distinguished scientists teaching it, and it's really tremendous.